Hello, everyone. This is Chuckle. Right now, it is 6:06 p.m., January 9th, 2025, at the current moment of the recording of this video. I just wanted to give some thoughts on my current thoughts on the world, and I'm going to do another unscripted video. I want to give out my thoughts and how I feel in the most rawest form. So if you like to come and listen, that'd be great. I've been thinking a lot about the world recently, and it's been a crazy start so far. So far, on the news, there's been saying about South Korea. They just recently had martial law declared. They got two of their presidents impeached. Uh, Plane just crashed, killing basically all passengers except for two. Believe it was Jeju Airport, something around there in South Korea. Let's see. Japan also have been you know, just shuffling through prime ministers. UK, the United Kingdom, their economy is not doing too well. Neither is Canada either. Cost of living, food prices have obviously gone up, and the United States is as well. It's not an easy time for any of us. And I just wanted to share a thought. And I've been looking at the world recently, and this is a somewhat, you might think, over the top uh, thing that I'm about to say, but I feel as if that we, all of us, are about to witness the end to something. I mean, that's the best way I can put it. And what do I mean by this? Throughout my life and throughout the 2000s, I've been sown this belief that all you need to do is work hard and you'll get somewhere in life. That may have been true before, but as you know, the world's more complicated than that. It's not as easy as it sounds. So I've been looking at the United States and how it operates, and currently, the United States is the most powerful country on the planet. 700 military bases around the world. It's the number one economic power. Yet, why is it that just recently, their United Insurance CEO, got shot? There's a lot of angry people in the United States, and I just wonder why. How can the greatest country in the world suffer so much problems, so much school shootings, and I want to give my thoughts and one of my reasons. And I'm sure there's going to be more. It's a lot more complicated, but hear me out. United States, Canada is what they say a capitalist country, but in actuality, it's more of a hyper individualist, hyper consumerist society that we live in, where everybody competes and they try to sell products, and they just try to do everybody's just trying to be better than the other. That's a given, right? We were taught that you gotta do your best to move up in the world, but there's clearly something wrong when you have people getting killed possibly every like every week or every day in the United States. We live in the 21st century. How is such a thing possible? And yes, there are people going to be who will say that, oh, crime is not as violent as it used to be. Like things are a lot better than it was in the 1900s and the 1800s. Sure, but that doesn't change the fact that it still happens, right? And on the other side of the world in the Middle East, there's still wars happening. Like war and violence hasn't stopped. Everybody can just say, "Oh, it's only natural," but I think there's another fundamental reasoning that we're choosing to ignore. In the United States and in Canada, when you have people put against each other, like everybody's competing against each other because it's their livelihoods. Of course, they have to compete. You know, how can you not expect people to do like more things and scheme to get to the top? That's what I've been thinking. Like to all those people who play fair, right? I don't think, and like to all the people who follow the rules, there are people who follow. Okay, there are people who follow rules, and obviously the people who scheme and get their way to the top, right? In a system where people's lives are on the line, I've been thinking about it recently. Like, it makes sense for people to try to be unfair to get their way to the top. Like if you're trying to survive, obviously, like there's no honor, there's no cooperations. Like nobody's cooperate. Well, if they would, it will only be like a temporary alliance before people turns their back on each other. And I was thinking about this, like we live in basically the rule. We're operating the rules of a jungle disguised as cooperation. I always thought that living in society, it's all we succeed by cooperating. But as we have a model where there are people who are at the top and there are people who are at the bottom. And do I think that's right? Do I think that's wrong? Well, I don't know. Or maybe I do. But uh, I'll give more of my thoughts near the end. But I want to give a brief history lesson. It's gonna it's gonna go together with what I'm trying to get at. The United States has basically, they won the Second World War. They created the atom bomb, and then with that creation came, the USSR with their atom bomb, and they have this whole war with each other. They have the Cold War, and ultimately the United States came out on top. They are basically the winners of the world. But that's not the end of the story. We don't live in a magical utopia that the United States has, presented to the world. They're the world military police, yet somehow, right? They're not really doing a really good job, especially overseas, and now that it's starting to affect the people in their own country. I've been looking at thinking what I've been taught in school, like how capitalism is great and, it's prevailer over communism. Yeah, all right, I get that, right? And for a time, it was, like capitalism did bring people out of poverty, and it basically won the world. But the the thing about the United States that I don't it's not exact it's not entirely capitalist. There's still socialist ideas like food banks and insurance and like healthcare insurance like Obamacare. A lot of people don't like Obamacare, but that I don't know much about details, but there's a lot of socialist incentives and there's workers unions. A country can't really be fully capitalist if you really think about it, because if the United States was purely capitalist, it would just collapse. Like, it's just not possible. So it's just these politicians, they say that United States is all capitalist, but it's in actuality it's a mix of both. Like, there's still unions, there's still food banks, there's still in, insurance, but the healthcare in the United States is not the best in the world, because apparently the CEO got shot and a lot of people are pissed off. Now, where am I getting with this? We've been sold the notion that the United States is the greatest country to deliver peace and prosperity, but that's not true. I mean, right now we're seeing political turmoil in all forms of democracy around the world. Canada, our our prime minister just stepped down because a lot of just like there's a lot of infighting, and the Liberal Party has basically turned their back on him. The United States is going through a violent times right now with a lot of people getting killed and shot. South Korea, they're they basically impeached like two. They just South Korea and like Japan just had three leaders. Like the South Korea has a president and they got impeached. Uh, Japan has three uh, prime ministers and they got impeached. So clearly something's wrong, and I can't put my finger on it because it's a lot more complicated than you think. In this so-called system that we live in this hyper-capitalist, hyper-individualist society, you cannot expect there to be cooperation, is what I realized. Everybody is secretly scheming and trying to, one up the other. There is no such thing as honor. It's basically put on as a front to keep people on this false belief that there is something to keep on working towards. But really, in actuality, there isn't. How can you have a functional? It's amazing. Really, it's amazing. It's been an amazing miracle how a society such as ours has gone on this long, where everybody has just been scheming and just one up each other. There's no cooperation. There's no honor in this. It's literally the rules of the jungle. Whoever is at the top wins. That's how it works. But it's starting to show. I honestly believe that we are about to reach an end. This cannot go on for much longer. The United States has won the world. They have basically capitalized. They just consumed the whole world, right? And for a time that it did work, because the United States has enemies to deal with. The biggest problem now is that the United States has started to capitalize and consume their own people. And we're seeing that because of, the healthcare industry. For God's sakes, their own citizen shot like the president of a CEO. That has to show that there is something wrong, right? You have so much corruption. You have insider trading, from what I heard. You have shootings, and everybody's mad, and it's 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 bound to happen that this cannot be this cannot continue much longer. And the next president, President Trump, says he wants to go in and take over Greenland and make Canada the 51st state. The United States right now is experiencing political turmoil with their own people, and I have a theory that the reason why President Trump wants to annex Greenland, well, it's just military imperialism. He needs to get people together to get excited about something, so that maybe Greenland has resources. I don't know. I can't really say, but the thing about Trump is that he's a mighty tough guy, and like, on the conservatives, they don't care. In the United States, they don't care about morals and ideals. Conservatives in the United States would only follow people who are strong and can give a tough voice. And on the left side, you have the Democrats, who are actually trying to help people, but it's that's seen as weak. So you have one side of the spectrum where, like, one side is like super strong. You gotta follow a strong leader because everybody likes a strong leader. But you have another side of the spectrum where it's just Democrats trying to put in like socialist policy, and it's seen as weak and it would destroy the country. Well, of course it would destroy the country because in a country like the United States, where morals is basically just like false advertisement, it's a fake. It's an ad. It's fake. There's no deep down. There is no moral. Like, it's a system built upon whoever is the strongest and who can get away scheming the most is the victor. That is the United States. But the problem is that it's basically like the snake eating its own tail, you know? There is no other enemy. Well, they are trying to pick a fight with Russia, but, they can't win because that would mean nuclear war and they would lose. Everybody loses, technically. Nobody wins in a nuclear war. So it's just picking at straws here, like we're going to see in the coming future that there's going to be a lot of desperate moves that are going to be played by the upcoming president to try to keep the United States relevant again. It's funny because, the United States has created like a monster of its own making. They have nobody else to blame, right? It's kind of like ironic how everything is playing out, quite honestly. Well, all right, I have a few predictions, like obviously, like, with the new president coming in, right? He's going to be extremely unpredictable. He's going to, try to, annex, Greenland, and, tax the hell out of Denmark and us, we're their closest allies. And, he's basically like throwing Canada under the goddamn bus, which is insane. Or that and become the 51st state. But again, the thing about Trump is that he's just like, obviously he wants to make us the 51st state, not out of genuine care for us, but he just wants to use us for his, political gain and probably come over and take our resources, something like that. Like I wouldn't be surprised, like if that's what he's really thinking deep down, right? But other than that, it's it honestly makes too much sense. How a society that pretends to have moral values, when they actually don't have any in any part of their, you know, in any part of their. I don't even think there is a culture because the United States is full of like imported. They imported everything, food from other countries. They imported cultures from other countries. Uh, um, it's only a matter of time before it's all comes crumbling down. And the scary part is we don't know what's next. It's definitely not going to be good. That's for sure. Is there any hope for the future? I don't know. I honestly can't. I'm not a prophet. I just try to look at the world and try to analyze things. I honestly can't say for certain what will happen, but it is going. Well, at least I can say this: like, it's going to be interesting, right? But on that note, if anybody can, respond to me, like, give me like the benefit of doubt here, or prove me wrong, I'm willing to listen to you, but I still stand by that, you know, like when you have a society, where everybody is just treating everybody as an enemy and it's just basically the rules of the jungle, how can it possibly last forever? Right? Society has to come. That society like that has to come down. Like it's the same thing like with like Rome, the fall of Rome, and like all other empires in history. The British Empire, the most powerful empire, has crashed down. What makes people think that the United States will last forever? It can't. It can't. And there's no possible way that it can. But that's just some food for thought. I thank you to anybody who's coming in to listen to me. How about my ramble? And, just drop a comment and tell me how you think. All right. Thank you very much.